Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Justin with the Millennial Mixtape, and today I'm bringing you an album review. Now I'm excited about this one because this was an artist I had not previously listened to. It was actually suggested on Reddit, so user evanhedley sent me a DM, slid in my DMs, and suggested, hey man, I think you would really like King Krule's latest Man Alive. So I was like, hey, let's give it a shot. I don't know. So I decided to take a dive. I did my due diligence, which is why this is a late review. Man Alive came out in February of this year, and I'm just now getting around to it. But was it worth the wait? I don't know. We'll see. And yeah, we're going to check out and see what King Krule, a.k.a. Archie Marshall, has in store for us. Now, this is the fourth studio album that King Krule has released. Most previously, he had released the Ooze in 2017. And when I was listening to that, I was getting a sense of kind of unsureness. So kind of a young man finding his way around the world as we do, right, as we're getting older. Now, I believe King Krule is 26, 27 now. So when he was recording that, he's maybe 23, 24. So still a young buck, right? Still young. But I enjoyed it. It was different. It was different. It lent itself to many different genres, which is something that I enjoyed. And as I looked at reviews of the previous album, I saw a lot of those reviewers enjoyed as well. This album does some more of that genre bending. So in this album, I got a little bit of acid jazz. I got some art rock. I got some dream pop. I got a little bit of grime. And one thing I can say about this album, if you didn't know already, Archie is from England, and this is a very British album. It is very British. And I mean that in the best possible way. But the influences from which he is drawing, two of them were developed and rose to prominence in London, specifically West London. So you do get a very strong sense of England here, not only through his affectations and his vocals, but also in the sound of the music that's behind him. So it is a very British album. We will start with songs that I enjoyed. Now, the first one that I really liked was Comet Face. I think the reason I enjoyed this one so much is because I'm a big fan of Block Party, which is another British band, alt-indie, alt-rock, punk kind of band. And you hear that influence here, just in the way that the drums are very kind of deliberate, but fast. Not too fast, but deliberate but fast. It's got a very rock and roll feel to kind of the chord progressions and how all of the instrumentation is laid out. It does have a layer of saxophone, which adds a little something different, adds a little something interesting. And it's not worse for it. Is it better for it? I mean, it's not bad. I enjoyed it. Throughout this album, I get a sense that the narrator doesn't like the effect that drugs has on him. He likes doing drugs. He likes the act of doing drugs, but he doesn't like what happens in the afterward, which is kind of a weird, it's like almost the antithesis of what you would expect from someone who does drugs. Now, I myself don't do drugs now, but I did dabble back in the day, as many people do. So with that, you get this sense that Archie has matured. And I can't speak for him, I don't know that, but also in doing my research for this album, I discovered that between the Ooze and now, Archie has fallen in love. He has a longtime partner named Charlotte. He also has a daughter that he found out he was going to be a father as he was writing this album. So throughout the inception and the writing and the recording and the release of this album, he found out he was going to be a father. Now, as a father, there is a lot that comes with that, and from that is an increase in responsibility. Now you are responsible for this other human being. It is you and your partner. It is your job to provide for this person, to make sure that they are fed and clothed and loved, and in doing so, you have to give up a lot of the things that were fun. All those fun things, they go out the way. It's replaced with new fun things. But, you know, all of the fun things that you once did are now gone. And so with this song in particular and a few tracks around the album, I get a sense of maturity, that Archie is maturing He is on steadier footing with his mental illnesses that he has discussed in the past, and he is finding strength in being a father and a parent, as opposed to being that young gun who did what he wanted whenever he wanted and dealt with the consequences, which is a different approach than his previous tracks, right? So his previous albums, of course, he was younger and did those things. So I think the album is made better for this progression and this aging of Archie. Another track that I really enjoyed, and the reasons for which I talked about or hinted at a little earlier, was Alpha Omen 3. So Alpha Omen 3 is the second single he released. The first was Let the Dragon Drag On, then this one, and then he finished with Cellular. He released that on February 20th, which I believe was the same release date as the album itself. To me, and in my perception of this song, it is a lullaby for his daughter. It's got really simplistic instrumentation. It's basically just a guitar that is simply plucked, but very prominent. The guitar is very prominent in the mix, with drums that are empty, providing only the backbone to the song and little else. There's no embellishment. There's not really any fills to speak of. There's a couple. But basically, most of this song is just Archie's vocals, the guitar, and then just a very little amount of drums. But as I said, it feels like a lullaby for his daughter. It's a song of empowerment. So as a father, as a parent, the line you walk in trying to ensure your child feels empowered, but also in having them embrace and appreciate the things that make them vulnerable, and then using that vulnerability to build empowerment, is a very heavy load to bear. And it's one that some parents welcome as their child gets older, and it's some that some parents run away from also as their child gets older. I hope to be the former. Some days I'm the latter, I know that for sure. But it is a very delicate line to walk. And I think that with Archie's lyrics here, he has done a really great job at ensuring that the lyrics are simple and able to be grasped and can also be applied to other people, right? So it's not just a lullaby to his daughter, but as a parent who's gone through this and the feelings that are presented in the song, it feels like a lullaby to parents too, which is kind of a weird thing to say, but it's something that not only you can use to help empower you, but also empower your child. And what Archie's doing, to me, is giving those of us who don't have the words to express what we hope to achieve with our child the words we need here. So a couple of lyrics that stood out to me in this song are: battle through it, consume it, then let it go, girl, you're the omen of paradise. So to me, again, this is just a song of empowerment and making sure that your child understands that they are loved and can do what they need to do, embracing the things that make them vulnerable, battle through it, consume it, and then let it go. Right? So to me, this is a great song. I think this might be my favorite just for the lyrical content alone. Another one I really enjoyed, because to me it is the most different, was Airport Antenatal Airplane. Surprised I got through that. But with this song, AAA, I will call it, for the remainder of the time I'm talking about it. So with AAA, it is the most different. So you've got this looping vocal sample in the background, and then Archie is almost singing in his recitation of the verse that's over it. And so because of those two things alone, this song is the most melodious of any of the other tracks on the album. It is enjoyable. It is breath of fresh air and what can sometimes feel tedious to listen to. And I'll talk about a couple of songs in particular that made me feel that way. But this song provides enough difference to kind of get you through the next half of the album and see it's a palate cleanser, for lack of a better expression. Another song I liked for the lyrical content was Don't Let the Dragon Drag On. So this one, as I mentioned, I've done some research on Archie, and I saw that he had some struggles with mental illness. He was institutionalized in a mental hospital, and feels that he wasn't helped in the hospital that he was at, that's difficult. That's a challenge. That's a struggle. But with this song, what I interpret it as is it is Archie reaching out and being sympathetic to those who may be struggling with the same issues he had. I have several friends that are clinically depressed, and from my conversations with them, how they feel in those instances, it's captured very well here. So a couple of things in particular that he talks about makes it sound as though he's talking to someone who's in a depressive episode. In particular, the phrase "outside's a trip for another day." Like the people I know that have depression, it's a struggle just to get out of bed, right? And you may know someone like that as well. But the idea that they have to face the outside or talk to someone on the phone or, you know, any of that fills them with so much anxiety and dread that just getting up is a challenge. And so I feel like this is, again, Archie's dealt with this very much in the past. There's one line in a song that escapes me now where he talks about becoming one with the cement. So he's had suicidal thoughts, suicidal tendencies. I'm assuming suicidal tendencies, but at least suicidal thoughts. And it's presented here as hopeful. It's presented here as someone who has come out on the other side and is reaching out a hand to say, you can do this, you can make it through this. And again, this is coming from, in my interpretation of the album, based on his previous works, as maturity. Archie is maturing, or has matured, prior to the recording of these, and the writing and the recording of these songs. And the last song I want to talk about that I enjoyed was Underclass. So it again deals with the concept of love, the theme of love, of allowing someone to consume you from the inside out as an ooze, so being permeated throughout as an ooze. So again, so Archie's now alluding to his previous work. Again, he's dealt with love or talked about love previously, but you're letting someone consume you from the inside out. So love is this ooze, this thing that comes from your heart out. And so I think it's a really cool imagery. I think it's really cool visuals of like letting this idea of love be something that consumes you. Again, he's being very fresh in his approach and how he describes it. It's not tired, it's not overused, and it's definitely inventive, which is something I've come to appreciate. Again, this was not someone that I listened to previously, but after having listened to his back catalog, just of King Krule, not his other works, his other collaborations, but just of King Krule, listening to that back catalog and coming to this, like that sense of the things he talks about is very inventive and creative in how he phrases, and might I say also deliberate. Like there are no wasted words in any of the songs I've listened to from King Krule. Okay, so now we have to talk about the songs I didn't enjoy. There's only two of them, but I really didn't like them. So the first one is Super Marche, and to me it is the most reminiscent of songs on his previous albums, specifically the Ooze. To me, this one is the most aggressive, and he's not even screaming on this one. He is on the next song I talk about, but he's not even screaming on this one. But the thing that I don't like about this song is there's a tension built into the fact that it feels very isolating, and I'm sure that that's intentional. So it's called Super Marche, and when I did my research, King Krule was talking about the fact that he was walking through supermarkets and he would hear conversations people were having, and it sounded like they had been propagandized or had been fed too much propaganda and brainwashed by the media, which, cool. That's fine. Cool. That's fine. But it could not be less obvious that that's what he's talking about here. So sonically, you've got this like reverby, hall, echoey sound on the lyrics, and then you've got very faint, distant sound as if you're in a supermarket and the, you know, B-list celebrity soundtrack is coming from the speakers overhead. It sounds very much like you're in a supermarket, and I get that that's what he's going for. Not only in a supermarket, but in an empty supermarket, and I get that that's what he's going for, but it just feels very like, to me, this is like art school mess. Like it's contrived simplicity for the sake of being edgy, and I just don't dig it. Like lyrically it's kind of out there, and conceptually it's cool. Lyrically, musically, it's not my bag. It's not my jam. I don't like it. So that Super Marche is my least favorite for sure on the album. And then the other song that I didn't enjoy was Stoned Again. So with Stoned Again, thematically I'm getting a sense, as I said in a previous song, Thematically, I'm getting a sense of someone who has done drugs and been an active participant in taking many drugs, but doesn't like the effect that drugs have on them. So they enjoy the art of, we'll say art, of seeking out and finding and buying drugs and taking drugs, but they don't like what happens to them once they're on them. And again, this has got to be maturity. This has got to be that responsibility of having another life that you have to take care of coming through in the lyrics. But it's just, there's a tension throughout that I feel is unnecessary. Like, I like tension in my songs, but there's a tension here that I feel is a bit unnecessary to the overall feeling of the song. Each verse culminates to this crescendo to the chorus, and the chorus is just him screaming, "I'm stoned again, I'm stoned again." And like, I mean, I get that there's pain and anger inside with what he's dealing with, but I just feel like it doesn't do well with the song. Now again, just like with Super Marche, conceptually, I get it, I dig it, I'm for it. Lyrically, I get it, I dig it, I'm for it. I just don't like the execution on this one. So I would have been fine I would have been fine if the song just was completely different. But again, like, lyrically, I like it, and conceptually, I like it. I just don't like the end product of it. All right, so final thoughts. I went back, and what I found is that with each successive album, he has matured, and this is the most mature that Archie has sounded. Again, I'm positive that life circumstances have had everything to do with that. This album is very much a diary for him. This is existential for all of us, but for Archie, this is what life is for him at the moment of writing. He's dealing with the birth of his daughter, about finding this love with his partner, and it's very present and works well when it works well. There's only a couple spots where I'm like, a little something different would have been good here. Occasionally, the album will kind of veer off into this contrived drivel where it's like high school slam poetry over art school cinema score. Like, it just, it's kind of, I don't want to say cringy because that's not the right word, but it's just kind of unnecessary. That's how we'll describe it. It's kind of unnecessary. But there's only 2 spots on the album where I feel like there are blemishes. I'm not going to say this album's perfect, but I will say, as an introduction for me, having to then go back and do research and listen to his other works and come back, I feel like he has made a fan out of me. I want to see what comes next from him. I know that he and Charlotte made a short film together. I will probably be checking that out if I can get a hold of it. But yeah, when it works, I can see the genius that everyone talks about with King Krule. He's got Bob Dylan simplicity with his lyrics, but again, it's this Morrissey affectations and sadness that permeates as well. And then sonically, musically, it is all of these different genres. So dream pop and art rock and grime and acid jazz, all of these different things working together in this one cohesive gel that you just don't think is going to work. And I dig it. I dig it a lot. With this album, again, I tried to do my due diligence. I tried to do Reddit user evanhedley justice in his suggestion. Thank you, by the way, for sending me that. And if you have a suggestion for me, you can find me on Reddit with the following handle. You can also find me on Instagram and Facebook here. But I tried to do the album justice. This album is a journey. Again, one that I feel is representative of Archie's journey thus far. I would give it a 4 out of 5. So it is pretty darn good with only a couple of blemishes overall. It is something that I will definitely be listening to again. But yeah, that's it. This was our album review of King Krule's Man Alive. I am Justin with the Millennial Mixtape. If you have albums that you would like me to review, or songs or videos that you'd like me to do reactions to, please drop them in the comments. Also, let me know what you think of this album in the comments. Sorry I'm late to the party on it. But you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, and Reddit at the following handles. And if you like the video, please like and subscribe. If you really like the content, please hit the bell gizmo when you see it so you're notified of any new videos I put out. So, can't wait for the next one. All right. Well, again, I'm Justin with the Millennial Mixtape. I will see you in the next one, and until I see you, stay safe, stay well.